Hello friends, this is video part 2, a continuation of weaving the round tray with handles. In the first part of the video, we wove the base of the tray. In the second part of the video, we'll weave the walls and handles of the tray. We'll need the same materials and tools as in the first part of the video. So let's continue weaving. In front of me is the finished base of the tray. On top is the reverse side of the tray. This part will sit on the table. The right side of the tray will be visible from the inside. As when the tray sits on the table, we see the right side. It should be smooth and without any splicing of rods. Take 3 rods. Here are 2 places where the tips of the weavers are hidden. We won't insert new rods here to avoid thickening in this spot. We'll take 3 stakes to the left and insert these rods there. With an awl, I'll make space to the left of the double stakes and insert the first rod there. In the same way, I'll insert the 2 other rods. These are the weavers we'll be working with. These are the leftmost rods. So let's begin weaving the 3-rod wale. We'll weave from left to right. Start with the leftmost weaver, bring it to the right behind the double stake, bring it forward and drop it down. Do the same with the 2 other weavers. Lay them tight against the weave. All stakes are in front. Attach a pin to the stake from under which the first weaver emerges. This will be our first stake in the row. The 3-rod wale is the row of weaving that transitions from the base to the walls of the tray. This row needs to be woven on solid form to shape the walls of the tray. To do this, create a structure and raise the weaving to a height so you can drop the stakes down. Look at how I do this. Then, gradually press the stakes down all around the circle so as not to damage the stakes. Take an elastic band and tie the weaving to the solid form. It's best to put the solid form in a plastic bag. This will make it easier to remove from the weaving when you finish weaving the walls of the tray. I didn't do this because I have glass, and it will slide well anyway. We've tied it and now we place it on an elevation, as I showed at the very beginning. It will be easier for you to weave when you stand over the weaving and look at it from above. You won't need to apply additional effort to maintain tension on the weavers, stakes, and the weaving itself. I carefully turn the weaving on its side so you can see better what I'm doing. The stakes will wrap around the solid form along the walls. The solid form rests on the lower stakes. Make sure they're directed along the walls of the form. I carefully tilt the upper stakes away from me along the solid form, shaping the future walls of the tray. Once again, I adjust the weavers so they lie tighter against the weave. In front of me are 3 weavers coming out from under the double stakes. I take the leftmost weaver, count 2 stakes, and bring it behind the 3rd double stake. It wraps around this stake, and I bring it forward and leave it. I hold firmly all the stakes through which the weavers have passed. It's important to maintain tension in this part of the weaving. I take the next leftmost weaver, count 2 stakes in front of it, bring it behind the 3rd stake, and bring it forward. I press it against the solid form with the stake. I move to the next leftmost weaver and repeat the action, and so on to the end of the row. If the weavers become short, splice them as usual and continue weaving. Watch the stakes, They should stand perpendicular to the weaving, straight. Make sure they stand straight and don't tilt to the sides. Adjust them. So we've reached the first stake marked with a pin. Here, it's important to close the row correctly. In front of us are 3 weavers. The last of them emerges from under the double stake before the first stake marked with a pin. We'll start working with it. That is, take the rightmost weaver and lay it over 2 stakes behind the third stake and bring it forward. Then take the second weaver, which was in the middle, pass it in front of 2 stakes, and lay it behind the third stake, and bring it forward. Then take the remaining third weaver and bring it behind the third stake, and then forward. That's it. We've closed the row. The pattern has repeated. I spliced the last weaver and laid it into the weave. Let's begin weaving the walls of the tray. We'll weave all rows of the tray walls with regular pairing. For this, we need only 2 weavers, but we have 3. We'll tuck the rightmost one into the weave. At the place where it emerged from under the stake, make a crease with your fingernail and lift it up toward the stake and press. Hold it in this position with your hand. Start working with the weavers. Take the leftmost weaver, pass it in front of the next stake to the second stake from it, make a crease on it with your fingernail. Then bring it behind the stake and bring it forward. Hold the lifted weaver in a straight position. Take the next weaver from the left and lay it over 1 stake behind the second stake from it, thereby pressing down the lifted third weaver, and continue weaving over 1 stake behind the second. Constantly press the stakes against the solid form, so the walls of the tray don't flare outward at the top. We've reached the first stake. We need to close the row. If you forgot to do this, it's okay. Continue weaving in a spiral. I'll close the row. I stop weaving at the last stake before the stake with the pin, which is the first stake. I take the rightmost weaver and pass it in front of the first stake with the pin and bring it behind the second stake from it. Then bring this weaver forward. I press it into the weave. Then I take the second weaver and splice it. Then I lay it behind the first stake with the pin and bring it forward. The row is closed. We weave a new row, take the leftmost weaver and lay it behind the second stake from it. My stakes are fixed in the correct position, so I decided to place the weaving on the bottom. I place a heavy weight on the bottom of the solid form, so the weaving doesn't shift during weaving. And I'll place the weaving itself on a rotating circle. I use it when I weave three-dimensional objects. If you don't have such a circle, place a paper towel under the weaving and weave on a smooth surface, on which the paper towel will slide when you move your weaving. Continue weaving with pairing. Watch the stakes so they don't deflect outward. When you make a stroke with the weaver in front of the stake, press the stake against the solid form, and then fix it with the stroke of the weaver. I constantly press the stakes against the form, so one weaver has emerged from under the last stake. We need to close the row correctly. I have spliced the weavers. Take the rightmost weaver and bring it behind the second stake from it. Lay it and bring it forward. Then take the second weaver and lay it behind the first stake with the pin and bring it forward. The row is closed. I trimmed the weaver that was lifted earlier, so the stroke of the weaver covers its stub. Continue weaving. You can determine the height of the walls yourself. Whether they'll be lower or higher is up to you. I'll weave 7 rows with pairing and make a border finish, so the height of the walls of my tray will be about 2 inches. Please note that the border finish is another row of weaving. Be sure to add approximately 1/4 inch to the calculated wall height of the tray. Weave independently. Don't forget to close the row when you reach the first stake. Don't tighten the weaving. Lay the weavers without force. We closed the 4th row, stopped at the last stake from under which the last weaver emerges. Let's first splice the weavers. Before the first stake marked with the pin, the weavers change order. First, Lay the rightmost weaver over one stake behind the second stake from it, and bring it forward. Then take the second weaver and lay it behind the first stake marked with a pin, and bring it forward. With the next 3 rows independently. Don't forget to close the rows before the first stake. So we finish the 7th row of the tray walls. We close the row, changing the sequence of the weavers, as we did in the previous rows. The weavers have become short. We'll finish weaving the walls. We'll hide the weavers in the weave next to the stakes from under which they emerge. I take the leftmost weaver, make a crease on it with my fingernail, and bend it down in the direction of the weave. I trim the weaver at an angle so that after the crease, 1/4 inch of length remains. With a knitting needle, I make space to the right of the stake and shove the tip of the weaver there. I don't use glue. Because the weaving is on a solid form, this is difficult to do. You can remove the weaving from the form and hide the tips of the weavers. This will be much more convenient. I'll remove the weaving from the form later as well. You can do this now. Use the knitting needle to help yourself shove the tip of the weaver into the weave. It's important that the tip of the weaver lies in the weave with the same tension as the other strokes of the weaver, not loosely. Do the same with the second weaver. Make a crease on it at the place where it emerges forward from under the stake. Trim the weaver, leaving a 1/4 inch tip. With the knitting needle, prepare a place in the weave to the right of the stake, and insert the tip of the weaver into the prepared place in the weave. If the tip has frayed a bit, shorten it slightly and try to insert it again. Push it as deep as possible into the weave. The weavers are hidden in the weave. Let's check the height of the tray walls. The height should be the same all around the circle. I take a ruler and look. It measures 2 inches, and here also 2 inches. Everywhere is 2 inches high. This time I got lucky. If your height is different, you need to even it out everywhere. Either push the weave down or conversely, lift the rows up somewhere if the weaving is tight in some places. Be sure to even it out. We need a smooth and beautiful tray. It's time to remove the weaving from the solid form. I remove the weight. I turn the weaving on its side and untie the elastic band from the reverse side. I hold everything in my left hand and gradually pull the elastic band upward. First one end, then the other. I remove the solid form from the woven tray. And finally pull the elastic band out of the weave. I don't need it. I place the weaving on the rotating circle and put the weight back inside the weaving. I check my stakes to see if they dried out or not, because we'll make the final border finish, and for this we need moistened rods. Please, before trimming your stakes, watch this part of the video about trimming stakes. I'll tell you when you can begin trimming the stakes. I'll show and tell you about all the options, and only after that, trim your stakes in your weaving. So if your stakes are dry, trim them all and insert new rods one at a time to the left of the trimmed double stakes. Put glue on their tips and insert them into the weave, or you can moisten them with water. With a craft syringe, pour water into each stake rod, or spray water on them with a spray bottle. If your stakes are sufficiently moist, then make the border finish on them. Trim only the right stake from each pair of stakes. We trim the excess stakes. Our stakes are double. We'll make the border finish from left to right. Accordingly, we trim only the right stakes. we leave all the left stakes and we'll make the border finish on them. When tilted to the right, the left stake will cover the remaining stub from the trimmed right stake. Trim the stakes carefully. You can't damage the left stake. If you still cut or badly damage the left stake, don't worry. There's a solution. Make space with the knitting needle to the left of the two stake rods that you trimmed and insert a new rod there. It's better to put a drop of glue on its tip and insert it into the prepared space in the weave. Look, in front of us is a pair of stakes. The left one is short and the right one is long. We need to keep the left one, but it's short. In exceptional cases, for example, if you've run out of rods, we can trim the left one, but during the border finish, you'll need to watch so that the stub from the trimmed left stake is covered and not visible. In 3 places, I trimmed the left stake and kept the right stake intact. Now you can trim your stakes and use the method that suits you. We create the final row, the border finish. For this, we need 4 rod scraps. They'll reserve space in the weave for future strokes. I fold them in half. I take 1 scrap and bring it behind any stake with which I want to begin the border finish. This will be the first stake. I hold the scrap with my left hand and tilt the first stake to the right behind the second stake and bring it forward. I place the second scrap behind the second stake and press it with the laid first stake. The scrap and the laid first stake lie parallel to each other behind the second stake. Then I tilt the second standing stake to the right and bring it behind the third stake and bring it forward. Behind the third stake, I place a scrap and press it with the second tilted stake. Hold the whole structure firmly. If it falls apart, adjust it and maintain tension in the weave. And now we tilt the third stake to the right behind the fourth standing stake and bring it forward. I place a rod scrap behind the fourth stake and press it with the third tilted stake. Now we begin the actual pattern of the border finish. In front of us are 3 laid stakes brought forward and stakes that are still standing. Start with the leftmost laid stake, pass it to the first freestanding stake, bring it behind it and bring it forward. I hold it behind this stake and shorten it so its cut edge is visible, 1 4-inch long. This cut edge should cover the stub from the trimmed stake. To this laid stake, I tilt the leftmost standing stake and lay it parallel with it, and bring it forward. I hold the laid strokes firmly so the border finish doesn't fall apart. Again, take the leftmost laid rod and lay it behind the first freestanding stake. I pass it to this standing stake, make a crease on it at the place where it will potentially pass behind this stake. I lay it behind the stake and bring it forward. I leave it, and immediately tilt the leftmost standing stake to it and bring it forward. In the border finish, we always trim the rod that is short and pressed against the standing stake by another laid stake, and again repeat. Take the leftmost rod from the front, pass it to the first freestanding stake, make a crease on it, and bring it behind the stake, and bring it forward. Tilt the leftmost standing stake to it and lay it parallel with it, then bring it forward. Trim the short rod, and again repeat the same actions, and so on until the last remaining standing stake. In this part, we'll close the border finish together, then weave independently. Maintain tension. Pack the already woven part so all strokes lie tight against each other. So we've reached the point when the standing stakes end, and we need to lay the rods into the weave. In front of us are 3 rods in front and 1 standing stake. The sequence of actions is the same. The purple rod scraps show the places behind which you need to lay the rods. These are the stakes we already laid into the weave at the very beginning. Take the leftmost rod and pass it to the first laid stake, marked with a purple rod scrap. Make a crease on the rod, bring it behind the laid stake, and insert it into the weave instead of the purple rod scrap, and bring it forward. Then take the last standing stake and tilt it to the right and lay it parallel to this laid rod. Trim the short rod. Take the leftmost rod, pass it to the laid stake marked with the purple rod scrap. Make a crease on the rod and immediately shorten it. Insert it into the weave instead of the purple rod scrap. I shorten this rod further. I check that the rods lie parallel and tight. Take the leftmost rod, pass it to the laid stake marked with the purple rod scrap. Make a crease on this rod and immediately shorten it. Insert it into the weave instead of the purple rod scrap. Notice that it goes behind 2 strokes. I adjust all the strokes so nothing stands out from the overall pattern. I pack the weave. The last rod remains. It needs to be inserted behind 3 strokes into the weave instead of the purple rod scrap. I'll insert a knitting needle instead of the rod scrap. Take the last rod, pass it to the laid stake, now marked with the knitting needle. Make a crease on this rod and immediately shorten it. Insert it into the weave instead of the knitting needle. Again, I check, adjust, and pack all the weave. To check whether the walls are even, you can turn the tray bottom up and place it on a flat surface. This way, you can see where the walls of the tray don't touch the surface, or, conversely, protrude too much. Adjust the weave, spread apart the rows of weaving, or conversely, press them down. The walls of my tray are even. We can proceed to the handles of the tray. You can leave your tray without handles. This is up to you. I remind you that if you want to take a break from weaving, you need to put the weaving in a plastic bag so it stays moist. We weave 2 handles for the tray. For this, we need to determine the center of the tray. In the center, we see 3 stake rods. We take the rod that's in the middle as a guide and follow it to the walls on one side. At first, it goes alone, then it splits, and 2 stakes go toward the walls of the tray. We choose one of them and find it on the wall. In the place from which the stake emerges, we shove in a knitting needle and make space for a rod scrap that will mark the place from which the handle will begin. We insert a rod scrap. In the same way, we determine the beginning of the handle on the other side of the tray. We make a place in the weave with the knitting needle, and we insert a rod scrap into the weave on the opposite side of the tray for the second handle. Now we check. We count the holes next to the stakes laid into the border finish between the 2 rod scraps. On one side, 11. And here are also 11 holes, so the center of the tray is found correctly. Now, to each installed rod scrap in the weave, we need to add 1 more. That is, determine the place where the handle of the tray will end. From the rod scrap, count to the right 4 more holes, stakes. In this place, make space with a knitting needle for a rod scrap, and we insert the scrap into the prepared place. We do the same on the opposite side for the other handle. We check again to see if the handles are at the same distance. For me, everything is even. Later in this video, when I determine the length of the first handle, I'll decide to reduce the distance between the beginning and end of the handle. I'll move the purple rod scrap closer to the start of the handle by one stake or one stroke. You can do this now or later together with me. Take 4 rods and join them in pairs, the usual way of splicing rods together. We have 2 long rods. To the left of the purple rod scrap and from the top of the edge, I count the border finish and 2 rows down. With a knitting needle, I widen the hole in this place. Into this hole, I insert these 2 long rods up to the place of their splicing. We pack the splice in place and hide it between the strokes in the weave so it's not visible. Then we bend all the ends of these long rods and lift them upward. We take a new rod and insert it with the twisted end in place of the purple rod scrap. You can put a drop of glue on the tip, then the rod will be better fixed in the weave. So the rod inserted into the weave will be the center of the handle, and the long rods, folded in half, will wrap around it from all sides in turn. At the beginning, immediately set the direction for all of them. The front 2 weavers face left, and the 2 back weavers are directed to the right. They don't cross. We lay the weavers one at a time around the central rod. Take the right rod, pass it to the left, leave it, and hold it parallel with the left rods. Then, from the batch of left rods, take the rod from the very bottom and wrap the central rod behind with it, moving this rod to the right side. Then repeat again. From the right batch of weavers, pass the lowest rod from the front to the left. Leave it with the left rods. Then take the lowest left weaver and move it to the right. And so repeat, the lower rods to the left and right. We rearrange. Attention! All the rods on the handle lie next to each other around the central rod. The rods should not cross each other. Maintain tension so there's no space between the strokes. Continue wrapping the central rod to the desired length of the handle. Periodically apply the woven length of the handle to the purple mark in the tray. The length of the handle shouldn't be very high and wide. It should harmonize with the dimensions of your tray. Apply the handle and look at it from all sides, up close and from a distance. I decided to reduce the distance between the beginning and end of the handle by 1 stroke. This way, the handle will look more harmonious. I moved the purple rod scrap closer to the beginning of the handle, and then the handle will be at a distance of 4 stakes, not 5 as I had made at the beginning. And I'll immediately move the purple rod scrap on the opposite handle to the same distance. I return to the handle. With a ruler, I measure the distance and look for the ideal height of the handle. You determine the height of the handle of your tray yourself. When you've determined it, trim the central and 2 weavers and hide them in the weave. So we leave alone the two weavers that are directed to the right. Trim the central rod and the two weavers that are directed to the left at an angle. We leave their length approximately 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch in order to shove this part into the weave next to the stake in the weave. With a knitting needle, we make more space for them. We put glue there. If you're a beginner in weaving, don't put glue, just shove them in. Because you may still need to redo the handle when you compare both handles with each other, and the glue will greatly interfere with this. And we insert them instead of the purple rod scrap as deeply as possible. Now we need to splice the remaining weavers. We trim the weavers so that the splicing is slightly above the border finish. Then it will be hidden in the wrapping that we'll now make. In the video, I shortened the weavers not enough, and subsequently, the splicing place is visible under the wrapping of the handle. This is not beautiful. You can see what it looks like. When I finished all the handles, I redid this splicing, and the handle looked excellent. I've spliced the weavers. The handle is inserted to the left of the fourth stake. The length of the entire handle consists of 4 stakes. We'll insert the weavers into the weave on the right side of the fourth stake of the tray walls. From the top, we count the border finish and 2 rounds in the downward direction. With a knitting needle, we make sufficient space in the weave for the rods. I hold the splice in place firmly and pack the entire rod along its entire length with my hand. In this state, it doesn't crease and doesn't change its appearance. I shove both rods into the prepared place and carefully pull them out on the other side. I pack the strokes in front and press them closer to the stake. They lie parallel, not on top of each other. I check the splicing to make sure it's undamaged. This is what it looks like on the other side, inside the tray. Once again, I pack the weavers for flexibility. I pass both weavers to the right and thread them through the space under the handle. They wrap around the handle of the tray, parallel to each other, from right to left, and return back inside the tray. And in front, these 2 strokes should cover the splicing of the weavers. Inside the tray, when the weavers return back, they make a loop, and their ends go under the previous 2 strokes. And we tighten this knot. It's like a lock. When you pull on the weavers, make sure they lie parallel to each other and don't cross. We adjust the handles. We trim the weavers. We begin weaving the second handle of the tray. We start the handle from left to right. That is, from the left purple mark. We've prepared 2 long rods. We've prepared a place in the weave to the left of the first stake marked with a purple rod scrap. And we count 3 rows down, the border finish and 2 regular rows, and make a place there with a knitting needle. We insert 2 long rods into this space up to the splicing point on them. We fold them in half in the upward direction so that the splicing place isn't damaged. In place of the purple scrap, we insert a new rod and wrap it with the weavers one after another. We lay them around the central rod parallel to each other. When the woven length of the handle is ready, with the help of a ruler, we try to repeat the dimensions of the first handle. so both handles are identical. We hold the twisted part of the handle with our hands. We leave the weavers that face right, and we shorten the rest and insert them into the weave without glue. We split the remaining two weavers and insert them to the right of the fourth stake at a height of 3 rows down, the border finish and 2 regular rows. We insert the weavers and bring them out inside the tray. Then with them, we make a loop around the handle, and their ends return back and under their previous strokes, and they are tightly tightened and trimmed. All the handles are ready. Check them once again. So that the finished item doesn't warp and twist, it needs to be dried on a solid form. Put the tray on the solid form on which it was woven, and place a weight on it so its bottom is flat, not curved, and dry for a couple of days. When the tray has dried, you can pour a solution over it from all sides, 3/4 water and 1/4 acrylic varnish. This solution will create an invisible film on the tray, which will increase its strength. Allow the excess solution to drain from the tray and dry it, and then you can cover it with a thin layer of acrylic varnish. We've finished weaving a round tray with 2 handles. Thank you for weaving with me. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel.